Devolver Digital just published their latest release, a 2D platformer that already garnered quite a bit of interest from the 2023 demo. This spicy little number is called Pepper Grinder, but does this short adventure put a little pep in your step, or does it leave you grinding your teeth? Let's discuss. Before we dive drill first into Pepper Grinder, why don't you head on over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to check out what our fabulous little corner of the internet has to offer. We may not have pirate treasure, but you could discover early and ad-free content, Discord access, an exclusive podcast, and even free games at some tiers. Adventure is out there, and so is your indie gaming community. So, if you played the demo, you already know the basics of what Pepper Grinder is all about. You play as the shipwrecked pirate Pepper, whose precious metals are plundered, so she must persevere through all persuasions of peril, pushing forth through precarious pebbles, powders, and pools with her dependable power drill Grinder. That took a lot of practice. Now, Pepper is seeking revenge on the thieving gnarlings who made off with her loot, and that's the long and the short of the plot, with a strong emphasis on short, because this game will only take you about 4 hours to complete, adding a few additional hours if you're a completionist. So what sets Pepper Grinder apart from the myriad of other platformers available on Steam or the console of your choosing? Let's start with the mechanics. You're almost instantly introduced to Pepper's tunneling ability, which propels her through the sand like a fish through water, controlling quite gracefully in levels that absolutely invite exploration. But Pepper's powers do not stop at her burrowing abilities, as she can use Grinder to equip keys to unlock doors, guns to mow down gnarlings, and even mech suits to destroy entire villages, all the while keeping an emphasis on platforming and discovery. As you progress further through the worlds of Pepper Grinder, new mechanics are introduced, including a grapple move that took me quite a while to get the hang of. Get it? Because it would be hanging from a hook. Anyway, I met my demise many times because of that cursed thing, but eventually it started to click. Even when I thought I had a feel for it though, it never felt as smooth and satisfying as the core tunneling mechanic. Alas, they can't all be winners. At the end of each world, you'll face off against a formidable boss, which I have to say was the least fun I had during my gameplay. Bosses vary in degrees of difficulty, but if you find yourself really struggling with a particular battle, you can always exit the level to purchase additional health armor from the shop that is located on each area map. Health is purchased with the loot you gather throughout your travels, which can also be used to unlock collectible stickers. There is also another form of currency, a skull coin, 5 of which are hidden within each level. These special medallions can unlock additional levels and cosmetic changes for Pepper at the shop. After successfully besting a particular level, you can also unlock a time attack mode, which will unlock additional rarer stickers and musical tracks. It's not much, but going for the gold and unlocking new collectibles is something that can get you retreading some previously conquered levels, adding a level of replayability. You can quite literally break Pepper Grinder down into what works and what doesn't. What works? I can't stress enough how satisfyingly well the tunneling mechanic is implemented, carrying you through sands and waters with ease. Even in the more challenging levels, it always feels like you can really hone your craft at this method of transportation and perfect your platforming with each run. I love having collectibles to seek out, the additional unlockable levels, and the way the new creative mechanics are introduced throughout. Everything that won me over from the demo remained true for the full release. So what didn't work well then? For starters, the bosses felt fairly unbalanced with the challenge level of the rest of the game. The additional health padding that you can purchase helped in some instances, but other bosses had more than one form. If you beat the first form of the boss and then died, you'd start back at the second form. However, if you left and came back to the boss, your progress would reset, leaving you to your own devices with the default level of health. I get it. Bosses should be challenging, but some of the game's mechanics just didn't feel as fluid and fun within the confined spaces of a boss battle. Then there's the fact that the final boss would completely break at times, leaving you in a vacuum void of sound and with other peculiar glitches. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I will say that the game doesn't end in the satisfying conclusion I was hoping for. I wasn't expecting anything jaw-dropping, but I was hoping for just a little more oomph, especially considering how absolutely gnarly gnarly the soundtrack is. Whatever shortcomings Pepper Grinder may have, it is more than made up for by having my favorite soundtrack of 2024, at least so far. I loved the music in the demo, and the full game does not disappoint in this regard either. Chipper electronic drums, fun and funky synths with distinctive horn sounds, and a tremendous amount of variety makes this a hoot and a half to listen to. Every level has a unique sound that matches the overall tone, keeping the player in the zone. Sound effects are also a key component here, especially since there is no voice acting. The sound of Grinder tunneling through the sand is super satisfying, as is the crunch when biting into a turnip for health and the death rattle of a fallen gnarling. It all just works. This made it all the more sad and jarring when my musical track disappeared from the final boss. Without the music to keep me going, I was pretty quickly defeated. It's like when you go running without headphones or your phone dies and you're forced to listen to the sound of your own heavy breathing. Not exactly the kind of motivation you need. Then there are the crisp, clean pixel art graphics that bring this retro world to life. The landscape of these levels are surprisingly well detailed, with all sorts of fun layers for players to take in. Titanic monstrosities will pass you by in the background, while the foreground will feature small turnip farms, crumbling cities, and even gothic-looking castles. Truly, Pepper Grinder takes you on a world tour in a super short period of time, and it's a hell of a ride. Let me be very clear, Pepper Grinder is not a bad game. The things it does well, it does really well. If you enjoy fun and fluid platforming, hunting down collectibles, or even just playing with stickers, there is absolutely a reason to pick up Pepper Grinder now. However, I don't think these developers have reached their full potential with this title. There is a super solid foundation with a lot of love and a little room for improvement with future endeavors, and I think that's an exciting place to be. I know I will be eagerly anticipating their next release.